How's it going, guys? I'm Connor from Running Warehouse, and today we are here with Nick Roche. He's the Global Product Line Manager at Adidas, and today we are going to be talking about one of their recent updates to a performance training classic. We've got the Adidas Boston 10. Now, Nick, the Boston has always been a favorite of mine, but now moving into 2021, we've got some very big updates that really the shoe looks like a completely new shoe. Can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration for the Boston 10?
Absolutely. So the inspiration and the insight around the creation of the Boston 10 was to keep the strong fit that the Boston has always had, like you referred to. It's a cult classic within the running specialty industry. And what we wanted to do is keep this fit and keep the intent of the shoe sound. So for your fartlek sessions, for your key long runs, for a little bit speedier day where maybe you don't want to wear a more traditional trainer, but you also don't want to fully commit into a racing flat type feel, the Boston is still there. Obviously, there are some strong aesthetic evolutions here compared to the predecessors. And what we've done there is just looking at the rest of our range, Connor, and looking at where we found new insights and where we found new solutions to provide great benefits to the runners of all kinds. And that is through, an obvious increase in midsole stack height without a massive increase in weight, while providing a much better experienced ride and everything for the consumer.
Well, perfect, Nick. I think I'm going to dive right into that midsole and that stack height because that's the first thing that stands out to me. Can you tell us a little bit about what that stack height is going to be and why you decided to go up that high in a performance trainer like the Boston, which really was kind of known as a little bit more of a lower to the ground shoe?
So before I get into the specific on the Boston 10, I'd like to remind us all and the consumers and myself the purpose of the Boston within the adizero line. It's always been a bulked up version of the adios of some kind. When the adios was our marathon racing shoe, setting world records for a decade. And we wanted to provide the consumer a little bit more cushion, a little bit more durability, a little stronger fit, a little bit more supportive of an upper versus that racing shoe. And that's what we've done here. So we have the exact same stacks, 39.5 in the heel, 31 in the forefoot as the Adios Pro. This is truly and completely the race day feel and training. It's the trainer version of the Adios Pro.
So moving a little bit deeper into that midsole, what compounds are we using? You talk about being similar to the Adios Pro. Do we have that Lightstrike Pro compound in this shoe?
Yep, so we have a top and bottom sandwich construction of the midsole. So our top layer with more in the forefoot, less in the heel is our Lightstrike Pro, the exact same compound that you'll find on the Adios Pro 2. And then underneath it for added stability and durability, we have Lightstrike EVA. And sandwiched in between that is the Boston 10 version of the energy rods.
Now the energy rods are obviously a very important aspect of the Adios Pro. Can you tell us a little bit how those rods are going to work in the Boston 10 and how it's able to be implemented in more of a performance training package?
Absolutely. So the only difference, but a very key difference between the energy rods that are in the Boston 10 versus the Adios Pro is these are glass fiber rods. So they're a little bit more malleable, a little less stiff, because we don't want to provide such a stiff experience to the consumer on an everyday running experience. So they can get a very stiff, great feel in the Adios Pro 2 for race day and key workouts. But for an everyday run or, a fartlek like I was discussing earlier, or an early season workout, you don't need as stiff of a ride. But we wanted to provide that same experience and that feel that the consumer would get out of the Adios Pro and bring it into the Boston.
Moving on down to the outsole, can you talk to us about the compounds used and how it's going to be different than the Adios Pro? Obviously, this shoe is built to go a little bit more miles, be a little bit more durable. How is that outsole going to be implemented in the Boston 10?
Exactly. So we've got a full continental outsole here versus the Adios Pro 2 that just had that toe off for that key traction at max toe off. And here we wanted to provide more ribs and traction zones for key abrasion zones in the heel and the lateral of the forefoot, and then the forefoot having a more closed outsole traction story here to allow for just the high durability outsole for a lot of miles in use.
Well, the most important part about this shoe, and I think a lot of people have talked about, and you even noted it, was the Boston fit. It's been a very unique fit, a little bit snugger. Can you talk to us about how that fit is going to continue on into the Boston 10 and really anything about this upper that's going to set it apart?
Absolutely. So one of the big things, like you touched on, I touched on, was nailing the fit. And that was key, and it was a challenge from us from day one, and we've successfully answered this challenge. Is we have a gusset construction. So we have an outer layer of Solar Mesh 2.0 that you'll find on the adios Pro 2 for breathability, lightweight, fit, and comfort. But we have an internal construction that comes all the way from the toe up and all the way up into the tongue. So it's all one piece for added fit and a glove-like, sock-like construction all the way through. So you're gonna get that extremely strong midfoot and forefoot fit that you know and love from the Boston, with a very strong heel fit story with the collar construction here.
I think the Adidas Boston 10 is gonna be a fantastic update. I know a lot of people really enjoyed the earlier versions, and while this is a little bit different, I think that added stack height, the rods, really just how smooth this shoe runs. I've already gotten a couple miles in it, and it really is a unique experience. I think people are going to enjoy this a lot on training day, workouts, and potentially some people may even choose to race in it. It's a very versatile shoe with a high level of cushioning, very responsive ride. I think this could be a very great performance training option coming into the year. Nick, thank you so much for laying this shoe out, giving us all the details. If you're looking to get the Boston 10 on your feet, it's available now here at Running Warehouse.